Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Blacklist. So, basically, to kind of get, like, the more shittier aspects of this episode done with, and by shitty, I don't mean, like, it's just like the nature of what went down in the show. Obviously, dealing with the blacklister, her name being Anna. Turns out she's a guardian because the situation was already shitty. Like the moment you find out, like, oh man, there's more to this. It's like, oh man, this dude's daughter had something to do with his murder because it's the guy that's named Jerry that's connected to Red. That he was trying to get the information, the ledger connected to like the Nash Syndicate from. And it's like, oh man, his daughter murdered him. It's like, oh, because everyone's thinking it's like this white supremacist group that did. It's like, no, it's not them. I even love that moment where it's like, oh yeah, like it has to wait outside or something like that. And Red was like, he was about to step up and do it. It was like, no, I'll wait outside. I'm sure it kind of felt good for Red when he was like, oh, when they gave him an excuse to kill all of them. I'm sure that kind of made him feel good. But nevertheless, going to like when the Guardian came to her and was like, okay, no, he had it was okay for this to happen because he deserved it for what he did to you. And I'm like, oh man, oh god, I was like, that sucks. So it's gonna be one of those stories. But it's like, no, it gets much worse because it turns out it's like, oh, that's not his daughter, that's actually his wife. And I'm like, oh, child bride, not just her. There's actually multiple ones. That's the concept of this, like. Basically, and it's a fucked up situation is like you have these parents, in a particular that girl's case, like her parents set that up and they were super okay with it. It's like, why are you okay with that? Like, and it's the sad thing is it's not even just like like around the world, like other country thing. It's like all over the place, even here in the US. Because I think that's something that's not even just allocated to like the blacklist. I'm pretty sure that's actually a thing that's big even in the real world. Like I think I remember something recently popping up in the news for certain states. I thought it was like some state in particular was recently changing its laws about that same, like this similar situation about like the age of marriage and shit like that. Like it can only be within a certain number of years apart between you and your spouse for, I don't know, because in this case it's like creepy because it's like the girls are like 16 and like their husbands are like 2 to 3 times older than them. It's just like, oh, that's horrible. Especially with that girl, it was named Tara, when like the dude, he was like, I'm gonna come up in a minute. I'm like, oh god. And then he crawled in bed with her. I was like, oh god, no. I literally couldn't look at the screen. Like I said, most fucked up part of the episode. And the sad thing is, like, the guardian behind this, like, the reason why she's doing what she's doing is because she was in that same situation. And she just wants to save other people from that child bride situation. She doesn't even take payment. She's like, no, the only payment I'll accept is you referring me to someone else. I do appreciate Samara's character in this episode because she was kind of like, okay, so we're just going to ignore what the guardian is doing, right? And Harold's like, no. It's like, why not? These people are monsters. It's like, for Harold, it's like, I know this sucks, but nonetheless, they are still going about things legally. No matter how disgusted we might be about it, murder is still murder. So, and it was fortunately Samar being the most sympathetic. She ended up talking Anna down and kind of getting her to go like, okay, like, and was basically saying that she would look after her because, you know, because interestingly enough, it seems like Samara was kind of not directly in the same situation, but she had a cousin that was in that same situation. And for her, it's like she was not able to do anything for her cousin, but she's like, hey, I can do something for you. And she was able to, luckily, the guy that was trying to prosecute her is like, okay. So basically, and Harold kind of talked into it as well. It's like the reason why she did what she did was because she was 13 and she went through that same situation and she was scared for anyone else that would go through it. So it's like, let her, you know, yeah, she's going to jail. It's not like jail, but she is going to get like therapy and stuff like that. So it's her sentence isn't going to be as harsh as it normally would be. And with good behavior and stuff like that, she could even be out by 21. So I thought that was kind of a nice, you know, like, you know, some justice was served, you know. It can't erase everything that's happened, but it can make things a little better. And hopefully going forward, because that's what Samara was trying to tell her, like, you need to be alive. You know, it's okay, you know, but it's like, tell your story so that, you know, this can get widespread. So hopefully her story will be what kind of changes things, hopefully. So there's that. So there's some silver lining to that whole situation. So with that being said and done, we do have the main overall plot where you have Liz finding out the truth because Haran isn't backing down from this whole situation. He's like, no, I got to figure this out. I didn't realize it at the time, but obviously Liz later on sees the guy that Haran ran into, the guy with the blue eyes. And like Haran was like, okay, this is the picture, because he finds out like the whole thing was a trap. It's like the vehicle was messed with ahead of time, but it was in the the vehicle was here. So how did someone get to it? But then, like, Liz remembers she bumped into that guy earlier in the episode. I didn't realize that was the same dude because I didn't pay too much close attention to it. It's like heliochromia, different colored eyes. I knew something had to be significant about it because when Liz came in, the dude said something. I was like, okay, they went out of their way to shoot. I was like, what was that about? And because I didn't notice his eyes, so I didn't realize it was the same dude who had took Tony. And that turns into a situation all itself when Liz finds out. She's like, really? What? You don't tell me you didn't do that. And it's like, and even Red doesn't even deny it. He's like, I'm not lying. He's like, I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah, I did it. We already know it. You already know it. And it actually surprised me later on just how okay Liz was with everything. That kind of took me by surprise because I thought she'd be a lot. I mean, she was rightfully pissed. I even love the line from Dembe later on because Liz is like, you could have pulled me off of him, but you didn't. She's like, and he's like, well, it's kind of therapeutic for me because even though Dembe kind of goes along with everything Red does, I think sometimes he just wants to kind of slap a little sense into Red too. It's like, because normally Dembe's very vocal about how he feels about Red doing a lot of the stuff that he does. But I think in this particular case, he's kind of been like very quiet in regards because he hasn't really outspoken a lot, even the whole Tony situation. Maybe it's one of those things where it's off screen that he's kind of had his disagreements with Red about it. But Red kind of tells her up front, it's like, I didn't betray you or the task force. I've told you right from the beginning, I will do whatever it takes to make sure I get that duffel bag back. And it's like, because it's like, if Ian gets arrested or he's on trial, I'll never get to see that duffel bag. He's like, but once I get it back and secure it, then I'm going to kill Ian. And in that regard, like obviously, Liz had told Haran, and obviously they told Harold everything about the whole situation. And so, like I said, Liz just took it a lot better than I thought she would. But ultimately, it's because when it was all said and done, like, obviously they were looking for Tony, and that obviously, like, the witness that got Ian's attention. So he tried to set them up. But luckily, Red had eyes on her, so they're able to get her and Haran out of there. And then the thing is, I guess what kind of feeds into it more is like, yeah, she's a little pissed at him, but she can't like forget the fact is that, hey, you did save us and everything, so thank you. We wouldn't be here right now because, like I said, that huge setup and everything. I'm curious to see, it seems like because Red kind of points out, like, the reason this happened is because Ian now knows how important Liz is to Red, because it's like, when it was going down, he was like, oh, this could be an opportunity for us to get some leverage. And so, like, that's what he meant, because he now knows how important, he doesn't know the relationship between Liz and Red, but he does know that she's important enough for him to the point that last time they saw each other last episode, Red made all those threats against him, said her name and I will cut out your tongue type of threats and stuff like that. Red doing what he did kind of set things in motion to kind of play out the way they did. So now it turns into that situation of like, well, what do we do now? That's why they need a ledger, because trying to arrest him won't do anything, because that won't make him break. Threatening him like he did means he's not even afraid of Reddington. So it's like this ledger is their only means of making sure that they take him down, because it's like, Red's like, if I take away all his power, then that's when because I'm curious, like, I'm sure, like, I don't know if he runs the Nash Syndicate is kind of the thing. I think he's just a member of it, but maybe he does run it. Because if he does, like, kind of lose all his powers and stuff like that, because Red's going to be hitting him where it hurts his power, his money, and his positioning. And so if Red causes enough problems, it might get to the point where the Nash Syndicate feels like they might not need him anymore, and it's like keeping him around is bad for business, so they might give him up. Like I said, it all depends on his position, whether he's a leader or not within the group, or whether or not he's just a high-ranking member or just a member in general. Like, eventually they will try and cut away the infection in a metaphorical sense, just to save the rest of the body. So just to make sure that the rest of the group survives, they'll try and get rid of Ian. So that's also something I feel like would happen if he did get arrested, but maybe it's just, like I said, if he is a leader and everything, they'll most likely try their best to save him. So it turns into that whole thing. But I guess Liz, like I said, like, because Liz doesn't really know what's in the duffel bag, like, she wants to know the truth. She's going to find out the truth herself, which is why Reddington's trying to push to do what he's doing anyway to make sure the truth doesn't come out, that Liz doesn't find out either. But I guess it's just because she doesn't know exactly what's in the bag, doesn't even know that it's bones or anything like that. Because I just cooked, she's like, your duffel bag. It's like, right, you don't even know it's a set of bones in there yet. So she doesn't really know the urgency about getting that, like that there is a big mystery with that. I'm obviously the biggest mystery for her. It's an even bigger mystery for her because she doesn't know what's in the duffel bag. She probably thinks it's like some money or something like that. She doesn't realize, or maybe something important to Reddington, but she doesn't understand like the context of what it is. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know if I really commented on that before, but also, I guess because she's so content with her revenge, it's something I've kind of talked about recently in a video I recorded today. It's not going to go up until like Friday. Is the fact of the matter is, like, in this particular situation, I feel like because Liz is so focused on her own revenge, she's going to let a lot of stuff Reddington does slide because she herself is kind of sliding on a lot of, like, on that scale of between light and darkness, she's heavily in that gray area herself, much like Red, which obviously Red kind of leans more on one side than any other, but he skates to gray more often than not. But a lot of other times he'll kind of lean completely in a different shade. But nevertheless, I'm just amazed at just seeing how that is all played out the way it has. You even have Reddington at the end kind of calling Ian to basically go like, because Ian's like, oh yeah, well, as they say, you don't succeed, try again. And then Red's like, don't worry, you won't get a chance to try again because now it's you made your move and you failed. Now it's my turn. Obviously not letting him know about the ledger, but it's like, yo, can't wait to see what happens when Reddington goes on the offensive, in the next episode. And then another thing that went down in this episode dealt with Ram and Samar, and that's the whole situation with that ring he has in this episode. And obviously he got two different responses. Obviously Wrestler is kind of like, yo, you give her that ring, she's going to think you're going to propose. Then he asks Liz, and then Liz kind of like, well, it could go one of two ways. Either she just looks at it as like oh no, it's just a regular gift. But if she does do that, that means she has no thoughts of marriage. That means most likely she won't change her mind. Like, if she's not thinking about marriage immediately, it means that she probably won't think about it like that at all. So, and it's kind of, and it hits Haram kind of hard because for him, he's like, I'm kind of I'm not a catch. I'm usually kind of the catch and release, type, which is like, oh, that's so sad you think of yourself like that. He ultimately, he debates so much of the episode deciding whether or not to give it to her or not. Ultimately he does, but he kind of swings it a little bit of a different way where he's like, no, it's not me. It's not for me. But she's like, no, of course I know it's from you. And she sees that something's kind of bothering, but he's kind of like, no, I'm okay. He's like, I just want things kind of be what they are. But it does, no matter what going forward, it's always going to be in the back of his mind, at least to him, thinking like Samar's never going to want to marry him. Like, yeah, he's not ready for marriage right now and everything. But the fact is that she didn't even think about it. It's a thing where it left him conflicted because it's like, if she did think about marriage, that means like, oh, well, maybe I should rush, it's going to be that conversation of like rushing to that decision. It's like, which is, it could be a good thing because it's like, oh, she wants more than what we have. But then the fact is that she isn't thinking about marriage means that it will never cross her mind. At least, that's kind of how Liz is kind of put it in his mind. And so he thinks like our relationship will never be more than this. This is all we'll have, which is fine, which he's fine with now. But that's just, who's to say later on down the road he won't be, it turns into contempt. And the fact of the matter is knowing that, but not really knowing it. Because ultimately we don't know where Samar stands on that. Like, given enough time, maybe she could change her mind, but who knows? I mean, different people operate in different ways. Maybe Liz is 100% right about it, but maybe there's going to be something later on that ultimately changes Samar's mind about that. I mean, obviously she's made changes about her decision about like her relationship with Haran. Like, obviously she's been reluctant to kind of come forward about how she really felt about him. So, who's to say things can't change too? So I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting development between their characters, and I'm curious to see that kind of continuing forward along with the rest of this story. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good